What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. On this channel, we practice no BS, so we're just going to go right into it. If you enjoy the channel, I post FPS content. I don't really sugarcoat my opinions like a lot of content creators. I'm not paid by any of these companies. And guess what? We're going to make a settings video. So if you enjoy the channel, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I am a mouse and keyboard player. However, most of this information in this video will be applicable to controller players, okay? And I do have some information about some good controller settings as well. So I'd say about 90% of this information is applicable to controller players as well. First of all, we're gonna go into gameplay and UI. Field of view, this is largely personal preference. I play on max FOV because that's my preference. However, I have heard from some controller players that apparently 103 FOV is best for quote-unquote aim assist consistency. If you would like to play on 103 FOV, you can make that choice. However, I believe that's a bit bogus. Field of view is personal preference in pretty much every game I've ever played, and I don't see why it would be any different for XDefiant. ADS field of view. If you want more zoom when you aim down sights, you will use independent. If you want less zoom, that is less disorienting when you aim down sights, you will use consistent. For ADS behavior, I would always recommend hold. If you are one of those, interesting individuals that play toggle ADS, here's the setting to change it to toggle ADS. For ADS sensitivity transitions, I would always recommend setting this to instant to, sort of avoid a bunch of different weird feelings as you transition from un-ADS to ADS. Melee during ADS, this is one of those settings where it doesn't really matter if you have it on or off. I don't see you actually meleeing while you're aiming down sights very often, so I guess why not have this on? It just sort of enables an extra ability or an extra function you can do in the game, so why not? Aiming interrupts reload. This is technically the fastest way to cancel your reload, but for some players it can get a little disorienting because I know some players cancel their reloads differently. For instance, some people cancel their reloads by just switching weapons. It could be pretty difficult for some people to break that habit and cancel their reload just by aiming. But if you do that already, here's the option for it. I do believe that this is the fastest way to reload cancel in XDefiant. Moving on to crouch behavior, sprint behavior, and auto sprint. Crouch behavior, this is sort of personal preference. I prefer hold. Sprint behavior, I like to control when I'm sprinting, so I don't have auto sprint on, and I like hold sprint because I just think it makes the movement a little bit easier to execute. This is, largely personal preference as well. I know a lot of great players that use auto sprint as well. Going down the line here. Sprinting, interrupting, reload. This is just, I don't even know why this is a setting, to be honest. You always want to have this off. The ability to reload while sprinting is essential to efficient movement and aggressive play in really any FPS game, so definitely have this setting off. For slide behavior, I find that sliding with tap is much easier. Having auto weapon reload and auto switch weapon after you're out of ammo, this is personal preference. This comes down to how you play. I don't personally have a problem with either of these settings, but I know some people do. So if you hate auto weapon reloads, turn this off. It's in gameplay and UI. And if you hate your weapon automatically switching to your secondary after you run out of ammo, here is the setting to turn that on or off as well. I would recommend having auto grab ledge off, as you don't want to accidentally grab any ledges if you're jumping near them or moving near them. It just makes it, annoying. I would have that off. For walk behavior and scoreboard behavior, again, this is mostly personal preference. HUD limits, I left these at default here. You can sort of move your HUD inbounds or outbounds or however you want to do. That is totally up to you. Challenge notifications, this tells you if you're completing challenges, if you wanted them all, or completion only, or none. So let's say you complete a headshot challenge. It'll pop up only when you complete it, rather than giving you updates for how far along you are in the challenge, which I find to be pretty interesting and useful. Damage numbers, enemy health bars, and minimap rotation. Always have all three of these on. The only thing I would say is I know some people that play FPS games actually prefer to have minimap rotation turned off. If that's your personal preference, then here's the settings for that. Distance units doesn't really matter. FPS, ping display, network info, diagnostic. That's all here. This is essentially just information for you if you want to know how much FPS you're getting, ping, network, all that sort of thing. This is sweaty PC information, diagnostic overlays, and then this is a setting all the way at the bottom of gameplay and UI called Team Composition Overlay. This is great for telling what your team is using and what your team could use in order to benefit your team, essentially. Like, do you have too many invisible guys with wall hacks? Do you have too many people using the cleaner class with the drone that shoots fire? You could switch up your team comp and basically just get a bunch of information based off of this setting. Moving on to mouse and keyboard specific settings. There will be more PC specific settings later in this video, but again, this video is mostly compatible with all platforms as well. Sensitivity is completely personal preference. One thing I do want to mention are the two ADS sensitivity multipliers. The ADS sensitivity for low zoom is for any sites that are 8x zoom and lower. The ADS sensitivity high zoom is for any sites that are 8x zoom and above. Okay, so this is where you find the specific multipliers for that. Always have mouse acceleration turned off unless you're one of those extremely strange Kovacs addicted people that play with mouse acceleration. Listen, man, I can't help you, right? Like, this is personal preference, I guess, but for 99% of people, turn mouse acceleration off. I'm begging you. Mouse and keyboard, this is where you find your key bindings, by the way. You can bind a bunch of different things to your mouse side buttons, for instance. Like, if you want to bind your Alt to your mouse 5 or your mouse 4 on your side button, you can do that. In terms of controller-specific settings, again, this is where I would defer you to a controller-specific aim assist guide because I do not play in controller. I apologize for this. Audio. In general, you're going to want to make sure the music volume is lower because it does sort of turn on games sometime, and, you know, you can just turn this off if you would like. UI volume, this is all sort of personal preference, as well as this is where you find voice chat. Video and graphics. This is going to be sort of the big meat of the settings here, especially for PC players. Always play exclusive full screen. This is where you select your resolutions and your refresh rates, which display monitor, triple buffering, make sure to have that off, reduce latency, turn this on. If you have, I believe, a 3000 series graphics card and above, you're going to want on plus boost. If you have 2000 series, you're going to want just on. Brightness, contrast, this is where you mess with that. I find that contrast turned up a little bit, as you see here, actually helps you see the invisible people a little better. So that is something that I noticed. DX12, I find DX12 runs better. If you have an older system, this perhaps won't even be applicable to you. So you're just going to have to run DX11. However, I found DX11 and DX12, I get great FPS. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen right now, we're touching, what, like 450 FPS in the menu. So my graphics card is getting fried right now. Graphics quality custom, VSync off, frame rate limit. This is very strange to me because you can turn the frame rate limit on, but then the maximum frame rate limit you can set is 200. So if you have a 240 hertz monitor, just turn this off. I don't really understand why that's a thing, but if you want to cap your FPS, there it is. Shadow quality, basically the gist of this is you're going to want everything on low here, okay? The game looks fine on low. You're going to want the best FPS experience you can get. Shadow quality low, spot shadows low, spot shadow resolution low, contact shadows off, resolution scale. You can mess with this if you're getting bad frame rate. You can play 85% or, 75%. Just know your game will look significantly worse. I leave this on 100%. Sharpening, this helps quite a bit. I turned it up. I believe the default is 5. I play on 6. Some people even recommend 10. I would recommend messing with this setting. I find that I can see people with 6 just fine. Particle detail, volumetric fog, global reflection quality, local reflection quality, vegetation quality, have all of this set to the lowest setting possible. Subsurface scattering, be sure to turn that off. Ambient occlusion, turn that off. Object detail, I've seen some people recommend 100, and I've seen some people recommend 0. In my experience playing this game, I have no idea why they would recommend 100, to be honest, unless it actively affects player models, and I've had no problem playing on 0, so I'm going to recommend 0 to you guys. Extra streaming distance, this is essentially your render distance, how things pop in. I would recommend leaving this at 5 or, moving it up or down based on what you want. Oh my god, I had lens flare on. What? Turn lens flare off. I must have misclicked or something. Make sure lens flare is off, water quality is low, chromatic aberration is off, and terrain quality is set to low. And just, I guess I'll throw this in. This is where you find your, This is where you find your crossplay and input-based matchmaking settings in your matchmaking and account. And this is where you find your language and accessibility settings, as well as your chat language filter. I turned this off because guess what, guys? I tried to tell my teammates to shoot people in game, in an FPS game, a first-person shooter, and this censored the word shoot. So turn this off because it's kind of cringe. So now we're going to move on to the more specific sweaty nerd PC graphics settings. If you are enjoying the video show so far, be sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. I stream every single day on YouTube and Twitch. Moving on. All right, now onto some PC-specific changes. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to our File Explorer. We're going to go to Documents. We're going to go to My Games. For 99.9% of you, it's going to be XDefiant, right? Easy as that. Documents, My Games, then you click on XDefiant. But for whatever reason, my computer is weird, and my XDefiant stuff is under USF7. No idea why. So you either find USF7 or XDefiant. For 99% of people, it's going to be XDefiant. But the file we're looking for is bc_gfx_uiconfig.config. You can open this with Notepad or Notepad++. So we're going to double click that and open it. The only thing we're going to worry about here is minimap scale. You can actually change the size of your minimap, which is interesting. To my knowledge, this is only available to PC players, which makes me wonder about how fair this actually is and if the developers are going to allow you to do this for much longer. But don't worry, it is not bannable. This file is a file the devs know about, which is why you can edit it. Okay, this is a config file. They're fully aware this is available to the players, and if they want to restrict it, they will restrict it at a later date. However, it's not restricted. So we can come in here and change the minimap scale by orders of 10%. So for instance, by default, this is 1. If you want a 10% larger minimap, you type 0.1. If you want 20%, you type, 1.2, or 30%, 1.3. Then you just, file, save, boom, done, right? Simple as that. That's the only thing we're going to do there. To the NVIDIA control panel now. It is worth mentioning, if you want your game to look super beautiful and gorgeous and, 4K Ultra RTX immersion, don't do anything you're watching me do here, because this is for basically like maximum performance FPS sort of thing. But that's probably why you're on this video anyway. I'm just going to let you guys copy most of these settings here. I might stop and explain some things on the way. Low latency mode, this can give some people problems. I recommend testing your system on it. Some people recommend Ultra. I find Ultra is a little finicky, so you can try low latency mode on either off, on, or Ultra. This monitor technology, this will be different based on your monitor, and if you're using G-Sync or anything. OpenGL rendering GPU, just set that to your graphics card. Power management mode, prefer maximum performance. Highest available refresh rate, obviously. Texture filtering, quality, high performance. Threaded optimization on, VSync off, unless you're doing something strange where you are turning VSync and G-Sync on at the same time for maximum game smoothness. I know some people do that. That's really the only things we're going to worry about in that section. Again, you can rewind the video and pause at certain sections for settings. Configure surround and physics now. Your physics processor, you're going to want to set that to your graphics card. We're going to go down to the display section now. For change resolution. Ladies and gentlemen, if you got your brand spanking new 360 hertz monitor and you're wondering why everything looks terrible, you probably don't have it set to 360 hertz. This is where you come to make sure your monitors are set up correctly, ladies and gentlemen. This is where you set your resolutions and your refresh rates and all that sort of thing. If you have more monitors, it'll show more monitors than I have. This is also where you find some NVIDIA color settings. Make sure you have output dynamic range set to full, and this is where you can mess with your color formats and color depths. Maybe you have a 10-bit monitor or something like that. I don't. Move down to adjust desktop color settings now. This is where you find digital vibrance. If you don't know what digital vibrance is, if you want super pretty color, if you want super pretty vibrant color that stick out, right? This is where you turn your colors to make them look super pretty. If you want your colors a little more subdued, you can do that. If you want them to be super zoomer and bright like Fortnite, you can come in here and turn it to 100% like I do. We're going to go down to G-Sync now. This is where you enable G-Sync. Video now, we're going to go to adjust video color settings. And I'm sorry, AMD people. I'm only doing this for NVIDIA, so I apologize. This has more things to do with your colors. You're going to want to go to, with the NVIDIA settings, check that, go to advanced. Make sure your dynamic range is set to full for both monitors. This gives you full color range and all that. Same thing with here. Basically, just use NVIDIA setting, 0%. And yeah, you can copy what I have here. This is also where you find your super resolution and HDR and all that sort of stuff. I don't mess with any of that. So yeah, that is essentially all of the sweaty XDefiant things. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the channel or found it informative, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I stream every single day at twitch.tv/enders. Thank you all for watching. And if you want to see more, guys, I'm going to be posting a lot of this game. So, hey, I'll see you guys in the next videos.
Shit is skillless and boring.
How'd that not hit you?